Hello everyone, I'm Jacob, Community Manager for Paradox Studio Black. In today's Developer Diary, we're going to take a closer look at republics. We talked a little bit about them in both the announcement video for Chapter 5 and the original Silk and Silver Vision Dev Diary, but today we're going to get a bit more into the weeds. So without further ado, let's get started. To start us off, what are republics? Republics in Silk and Silver are effectively small city-states, with all the relevant people who live there. That means whoever is the current ruler and all patricians of the city. The patricians are landless nobility and burghers who are part of the city's assembly, who can vote on matters and who are possibly aiming to become the next head of the republic themselves. In other words, the patricians aren't landed, but they are all rooted to the city and the politics of the realm. These city-states are inspired by many historical city-states of the Middle Ages, including republics such as Venice, Florence, the Swiss republics, and the free cities of the Holy Roman Empire. There are different types of republics, but all of them will have patricians who trade in some fashion to fund their political endeavors. As a fun little side note, we also split the Vatican from the city of Rome, so if you want to play as a little manipulative, controlling Roman republic under the Pope, that is now a neat little opportunity in Silk and Silver. In real life, many of our more well-known republics had a tendency to start off as communal city-states, eventually turning into seigneurias, semi-tyrannical city-states led by a single family. That was our starting point as we went into this, and we wanted to depict this in-game. These smaller entities often punched well above their weight in very specific, limited ways. We wanted families in the city-state to matter, and to both quabble and plot together. It was supposed to be a playstyle for people who didn't want to go wide and build a huge realm, but rather focus on internal politicking, scheming, changing laws, and trade. The idea being that all patricians would have access to trade to fund their political schemes and careers. You would have the opportunity to start out in a small commune, and over time, turn it into your personal city-state. One you control entirely in all but name. To that end, we're adding house ambitions, a type of house attribute like mandala aspects or house aspirations in Japan, that defined the kind of idea your house has for the Republic. It was one of the things we wanted early on, so we could get that immediate feel for what different houses care about. The idea being that as you set out on your Republic journey, you'd have several actors in the Republic, irrelevant of characters themselves. So over time, you'd start knowing specific families for their values and stances. The Zorsi family, they always foil my plans. We wanted popular opinion to play an important and special role in republics, serving as a way for the public to interact with the Republic's ruler, which we felt was more important for republics than most other landed forms of government in the game. As we're reworking that mechanic anyway, it seemed like a prime opportunity to do something extra. As you might imagine, being a very unpopular ruler in a republic might have some consequences for your health. As you are intrinsically linked to the city-state, so is progression in some ways. A smaller count-tier city-state can only sustain one family and have a limited amount of laws, and they don't really become proper republics until they reach Duke tier. Unlike regular rulers, republics don't really use the de jure system per se. They build their own titles as they grow in importance, but these are locked behind the prestige of their rulers, the size of their settlements, and other factors. As they reach Duke tier, more families will join the Republic, and squabbling will begin in earnest to form the Republic in whatever way the patricians want. As they continue to grow, they will be able to spread their roots and become smaller merchant empires akin to Venice in real life. Now, before we move on to anything else, we should discuss the politics of the Republic a little bit, and the assembly mechanic we are adding in Silk and Silver. The assembly is where the Republic votes on public matters and the mechanics of the Republic itself. Any assembly member can step up and propose law changes at any given time, and the whole assembly will then proceed to vote on said matter for the next 6 months. We should also mention that in the Republic, we usually have elections as the succession law, meaning that, similar to the Holy Roman Empire, the title passes based on the number of votes. If you are somewhat tyrannical, you can change it to a despot succession down the line, if you feel like your family is the only one really fit to rule. Now, most parts of this assembly are in themselves put together by laws. So who is actually a part of the assembly? Well, that's a law. Currently, these are the options available. A patrician assembly with all patrician house heads. A governing council with the ruler's council members. A general assembly, all patrician house heads and republican vassals. And a parliament, all patrician house heads and vassals in general. Now, how many votes do you need for something to pass? You guessed it, that's also a law. It can either be a simple majority, 2/3 majority, or a unanimous vote. That means that as you pass, you can, in theory, make a law setup that you are happy with, and then try to pass a unanimous vote to ensure that it sticks around in perpetuity. Another part is, of course, what the assembly can actually vote for. Yet again, that is a law. At most, they can vote on laws, decrees, and election laws. At the very least, they can always vote for election laws. While our current set of laws is not final and is likely to change by the time we release Silk and Silver, here are some of the other laws we have at the moment. Term length. How long the ruler is going to sit. A minimum of 5 years, maximum for life. War declaration. Whether the assembly has to approve war declarations or if the ruler can do it himself. Title revocation. If the ruler can revoke titles from vassals. Title retraction. If the ruler can retract vassals from vassals. And vassal refusal. If declining a revocation or retraction is considered criminal for the vassal. We did mention decrees a little bit earlier, but now let's get into what they actually are. Decrees are effectively government-specific decisions for republics that depend on the assembly, usually detailing the use of government treasury. For republics, treasuries will be used only by the head of the republic, and will be used for buildings, decrees, and title men-at-arms, and gained by buildings and decrees. For decree, you will usually be able to use the government treasury with the assembly's approval. Of course, it comes down to, yet again, the laws of your republic. How many votes you need, who can vote, etc. But if you get approval, the decree is effectively like enacting a decision in the game, with a cost, an effect, and some requirements for it to be chosen. In our previous Vision Dev Diary, we talked a little bit about the new district and building system, and as part of that, we have also added a new district specific to republics, the Trade Post. These are inspired by the Hanseatic contours in the Italian Fondaci, and they are effectively districts you hold in someone else's land. Every patrician has a limit to how many trade posts they can hold at any given time, and every county in the world can have one trade post. Some areas, usually those far away from any Republic characters, will not see any trade posts, whereas other areas will have several characters flock and scheme to take their trade posts from one another. As republics are quite limited in how much land they can hold, this is another avenue where they can effectively expand to gain some more power, and it also gives them some neat benefits in other people's lands, which can help them in different ways. Within the Trade Post District, we have some regular buildings that will just increase sell prices and decrease buy prices for those who want to synergize with their ongoing trade routes, or just increase their money making in different ways. Besides those more simplistic buildings, we also have buildings that let you negotiate an alliance with a local ruler, recruit culturally locked men-at-arms, or increase your mercenary limit. Speaking of mercenary limits, with Silk and Silver, we are introducing a new mercenary limit that caps the number of mercenaries that can be employed at any given time. It was always curious that people who had a lot of money could, in theory, just money away wars by tossing enough of it at the problem. We have added a mercenary limit, so people who are actually good at war will be able to use and organize mercenaries more effectively than their richer counterparts, if they can afford them. Like most modifiers, this can be adjusted by most places we hand out modifiers in the game, such as government types, cultural traditions, and lifestyles. For republics, they will start with a somewhat higher mercenary limit than regular rulers, as they are otherwise a bit weaker martially. One of the Republic fantasies of our time period is, of course, to be able to become the Hanseatic League. It was a powerful trade league that controlled trade through the Baltic Sea and had a significant impact on all its neighbors and trade partners. Trade leagues are confederations of republics that come together to pool their resources and monopolies, and ensure wealth for all participants. They are the ones who outcompete the regular merchants and the smaller republics in the area. As the League continues to grow more powerful and cohesive, it will eventually become more competitive and make a singular title through a new decision. The idea is that forming large trade leagues should be a goal for players to achieve, which in some ways puts them at the very top of the food chain among merchants and republics. And with that, today's Dev Diary comes to a close. There's still a lot of work on republics remaining. Of course, we will come back with even more details later. One thing of note is that this is our last Silk and Silver developer diary planned before the summer break. So we will be back with more details on this major expansion in early August after our summer break. We hope you've enjoyed all of our latest dev diaries on the work we're putting into the expansions this year, and that you are as stoked to play them as we are to release them. As always, thank you for watching, and if you want to stay up to date with everything Crusader Kings, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I've mentioned before that we usually record these in advance, and sometimes the recording gets a little too close to the actual publication. Well, if you follow us on social media at all, you might know that we post Dev Diary teasers the day before the Dev Diary goes live. Well, for this one, I actually had to stop recording in the middle of this to post the teaser. So I'm cutting it a little close this time.